बताया गया है। इंशाल्लाह इसमें हमारे यूके से तशरीफ़ लाए हुए बहुत ही मुक़्तदर आलिम दीन और हुज़ूर मुफ़क्कर इस्लाम हज़रत अल्लामा क़मरुज़्ज़मान आज़मी दामद बरकातुहुल आलिया के शहज़ादे डॉक्टर वक़ारुज़्ज़मान हमारे दरमियान तशरीफ़ फरमाए। इंशाल्लाह अज़्ज़ व जल आपका ख़िताब अभी थोड़ी देर में इंशाल्लाह शुरू होगा और मौजू जो है वो भी बड़ा अहम और ज़रूरी है। तो जो अहबाब अभी तक मस्जिद में नहीं पहुंच पाए और लाइव वो देख रहे हैं तो मस्जिद में जल्दी जल्दी तशरीफ़ ले आएँ इंशाल्लाह अज़्ज़ व जल। ये हमारा प्रोग्राम लाइव भी टेलीकास्ट हो रहा होता है अल-नूर ह्यूस्टन के यूट्यूब चैनल और 2 अदर पेजेस हैं फेसबुक के ऊपर। तो आप भाई जो यहाँ पर तशरीफ़ फरमाएँ, आपसे गुजारिश है कि उसको एक तो सब्सक्राइब करें ताकि आने वाले जितने भी प्रोग्राम हमारे होते हैं वो आपको मिलें और आपको नोटिफिकेशन मिलती रहे। अभी का जो प्रोग्राम है आपके जितने भी पर्सनल ग्रुप्स होते हैं उनमें आप वो लिंक शेयर कीजिए ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग जो हैं वो इस जो बयानात होते हैं, जो इल्म की बातें होती हैं, उससे वो नफ़ा हासिल कर सकें इंशाअल्लाह अज़्ज़ व जल। जी, यूट्यूब चैनल जो है वो अल-नूर ह्यूस्टन के नाम से है, तो उसको आप देख लीजिए इंशाअल्लाह, तो वो उसको सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए। मैं बाकायदा बाकायदा महफ़िल का आगाज़ करने के लिए जनाब हाफ़िज़ मीर मुस्तफ़ा साहब से गुजारिश करूँगा कि वो तशरीफ़ लाएँ पोडियम पर और तिलावत कुरान मजीद से महफ़िल का आगाज़ फरमाएँ।
अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। इन्नल्लज़ीना फ़र्रक़ू दीनहुम व कानू शियअन लस्त मिनहुम फ़ी शै'इन इन्नमा अम्रुहु इज़ा अराद शै'अन अन यक़ूल लहू कुन फ़यकून। मन जाअ बिलहसनति फलहु अश्रु अम्सालिहा वमन जाअ बिस्सय्यअति फला युज्ज़ा इल्ला मिस्लहा वहुम ला युज़्लमून। क़ुल इन्ननी हदानी रब्बी इला सिरातिम मुस्तक़ीम दीनन क़ियमन मिल्लत इब्राहीम हनीफ़ा वमा कान मिनल मुशरिकीन। क़ुल इन्न सलाती व नुसुकी व महयाय व ममाती लिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन। لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. قل أغير الله أبغي ربا وهو رب كل شيء ولا تكسب كل نفس إلا عليها ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى ثم إلى ربكم مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم فيه تختلفون. صدق اللہ العظیم.
ماشاء اللہ. یہ تھے ہمارے حافظ میر مصطفیٰ صاحب جو تلاوت قرآن مجید کرنے کی سعادت حاصل کر رہے تھے. انشاءاللہ اب ایک حمد باری تعالیٰ، ایک نعت رسول مقبول اور انشاءاللہ چند اشعار ایک منقبت کے مجھے پیش کرنے ہیں. آج مجھے چھٹی ملی ہے تھوڑی سی قبلہ مفتی صاحب سے، تو حافظ صاحب بھی پاکستان گئے ہوئے ہیں تو میری موجیں ہیں پھر آج. بہرحال اللہ خیر فرمائے، اللہ تعالیٰ ہمارا یہاں پر آنا بیٹھنا سننا سنانا قبول و منظور فرمائے اور حضرت سے ہم فیض یاب ہوں. تمام بھائی جو ہیں مل کر وہ درود پاک کا نذرانہ آقا علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کی بارگاہ میں پیش کیجیے. صلی اللہ علیہ یا رسول اللہ وسلم علیک یا حبیب اللہ. حضور مفتی اعظم ہند رحمۃ اللہ تعالی کا لکھا ہوا بہت ہی حمدیہ کلام، بہت ہی پیارا خوبصورت. آئیے اس کے شروع میں اللہ اللہ کی صدائیں ہیں، وہ بھی ہم مل کر پڑھتے ہیں. اللہ 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 اللہ. قلب کو اس کی رویت کی ہے آرزو، جس کا جلوہ ہے عالم میں ہر چار سو. قلب کو اس کی رویت کی ہے آرزو، جس کا جلوہ ہے عالم میں ہر چار سو. بلکہ خود نفس میں ہے وہ سبحانہ، بلکہ خود نفس میں ہے وہ سبحانہ. عرش پر ہے مگر عرش پر ہے مگر عرش کو جستجو. اللہ 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 اللہ. عرش
و فرش و زمان جہت اے خدا جس طرف دیکھتا ہوں ہے جلوہ تیرا عرش و فرش و زمان جہت اے خدا جس طرف دیکھتا ہوں ہے جلوہ تیرا ذرے ذرے کی آنکھوں میں تو ہی ضیا ذرے ذرے کی آنکھوں میں تو ہی ضیا قطرے قطرے کی تو ہی ہے آبرو اللہ 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 تو کسی جا نہیں اور ہر جاہ تو منزہ مکان سے مبلغ سو تو کسی جا نہیں ہے اور ہر جاہ تو کسی جا نہیں اور ہر جاہ تو منزہ مکان سے مبلغ سو علم و قدرت سے ہے علم و قدرت سے ہر جاہ تو خوب کو علم و قدرت سے ہر جاہ تو خوب کو تیرے جلوے ہر جگہ ہے عفو اللہ 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 خواب نوری میں آئے جو نور خدا بقائے نور ہو اپنا ظلمت قدا خواب نوری میں آئے جو نور خدا بقائے نور ہو اپنا ظلمت قدا جگمگا اٹھے دل چہرہ ہو پرزیا جگمگا اٹھے دل چہرہ ہو پرزیا نوریوں کی طرح شغل ہو ذکر ہو اللہ 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 جل جلالہ
درود پاک پڑھ لیجئے انشاءاللہ عز و جل قبلہ مفتی اعظم نارتھ امریکہ حضرت علامہ مولانا مفتی قمر الحسن القادری دامت برکاتہم علیہ کے لکھا ہوا بہت ہی خوبصورت کلام ہے اور انشاءاللہ میں پڑھتا ہوں امید ہے کہ غلطی نہیں ہوگی میں نے پریکٹس تو کی حضرت باقی دیکھ درود پاک پڑھ لیجئے صلی اللہ علیہ یا ورسول اللہ وسلم علیک یا حبیب اللہ ایک مرتبہ بآواز بلند آپ سب مل کے پڑھ لیجئے انشاءاللہ عزوجل آپ کو برکتیں ملیں گی صلی اللہ علیہ یا کب تلک رکھیں گا یوں چاک گریباں ہم کو
کب تلک رکھیے گا یوں چاک گریباں ہم کو کب تلک رکھیے گا یوں چاک گریباں ہم کو کب تلک رکھیے گا یوں چاک گریباں ہم کو آپ کیوں رکھتے نہیں ہیں تے داماں ہم کو آپ کیوں رکھتے نہیں ہیں تے داماں ہم کو تشنا لب تشنا جگر تشنا دہن تشنا وجود تشنا لب تشنا جگر تشنا دہن تشنا وجود ابر رحمت سے پلاقت رائے نساں ہم کو ابر رحمت سے پلاقت رائے نساں ہم کو تیری کرنوں سے چمک اٹھے ہیں اندھے شیشے یا رسول اللہ تیری کرنوں سے چمک اٹھے ہیں اندھے شیشے اپنا آئینہ بنائے میں تاباں ہم کو اپنا آئینہ بنائے میں تاباں ہم کو نال سرکار دو عالم کا جو مل جائے ہے تاج نال سرکار دو عالم کا جو مل جائے مجھے تاج دیکھ کر خلد میں عش عش کرے رضوان ہم کو دیکھ کر خلد میں عش عش کرے رضوان ہم کو خود میں چلو تھے گی ان کی نگاہیں مکرم خود میں چلو تھے گی ان کی نگاہیں مکرم حشر میں دیکھیں گے جس وقت پریشان ہم کو حشر میں دیکھیں گے جس وقت پریشان ہم کو ہم سیاہ کار معلوم ہے سرکار مگر ہم سیاہ کار معلوم ہے سرکار مگر رحم فرمائیے کیجئے نہ پشیمان ہم کو رحم فرمائیے کیجئے نہ پشیمان ہم کو عالم کون و مکان ہے سید کل عالم کون و مکان ہے سید کل بالیقین سے یہی دیتا ہے قرآن ہم کو بالیقین سے یہی دیتا ہے قرآن ہم کو روئے وشمس کی کرنوں سے منور ہے قمر روئے وشمس کی کرنوں سے منور ہے قمر صدقہ واللیل کائے گے سوئے جانا ہم کو صدقہ واللیل کائے گے سوئے جانا ہم کو کب تلک رکھیے گا یوں چاک گریباں ہم کو آپ کیوں رکھتے نہیں ہیں تہ داماں ہم کو مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے 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 یا خدا چرخ اسلام پر تا ابد میرا تاج شریعت سلامت رہے مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے اے بریلی میرا باغ جنت ہے تو یا یعنی جلوہ گئے اعلیٰ حضرت ہے تو بالیقین مرکز اہل سنت ہے تو بالیقین مرکز اہل سنت ہے تو یہ تیری مرکزیت سلامت رہے نعرہ فیض رضا کا لگاتا رہوں نجدیوں کے دلوں کو جلاتا رہوں اور کلام رضا میں سناتا رہوں فیض احمد رضا تا قیامت رہے. اور یہ جو کلام لکھا گیا یہ حضور سیدی اعلیٰ حضرت کے پیر و مرشد سیدنا شاہ آل رسول رحمت اللہ تعالی انہوں نے لکھا. اور ویسے تو ہر مرید کو ہوتا ہے کہ میرے پیر صاحب میرے پیر صاحب. یہاں پر پیر صاحب جو کہتے ہیں کہ میرا مرید. اب سنیے کس طرح کہتے ہیں کہ روز محشر اگر مجھ سے پوچھے اللہ تبارک و تعالیٰ کہ آل رسول کیا لائے ہو تو آپ فرماتے ہیں روز محشر اگر مجھ سے پوچھے خدا بولے آل رسول تو لایا ہے کیا روز محشر اگر مجھ سے پوچھے خدا بولے آل رسول تو لایا ہے کیا پیش کر دوں گا لایا ہوں احمد رضا پیش کر دوں گا لایا ہوں احمد رضا یا خدا یہ امانت سلامت رہے مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے. پڑھیں مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت ہی مسلک اہل سنت. ٹھیک ہے تو تمام بھائی جو ہیں وہ مل کے پڑھیں مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے مسلک اعلیٰ حضرت سلامت رہے. الحمدللہ. اب بلا تاخیر میں دعوت دوں گا جگر گوشہ مفکر اسلام حضرت علامہ قمرالزمان اعظمی صاحب کے لخت جگر جو یو کے سے ہمارے پاس تشریف لائے. ان کا شکریہ بھی ہم ادا کرتے ہیں اور انشاءاللہ یہ بھی ہم ان سے ریکویسٹ رکھتے ہیں کہ یہ اب آتے جاتے رہیں انشاءاللہ. پہلے بھی کافی مرتبہ حضرت تشریف لائے ہیں. میری زیارت میں پہلی مرتبہ حضرت کا جی کیونکہ میں 2020 میں یہاں موو ہوں تو میں حضرت سے تو ملاقات ہوئی 2 مرتبہ. آپ کی زیارت پہلی مرتبہ ہوئی تو الحمدللہ یہ بزرگ اللہ تعالیٰ ان کا سایہ ہمارے سروں پہ قائم و دائم فرمائے. میں گزارش کروں گا حضرت ڈاکٹر وقارُزمان اعظمی دامت برکاتہم العالیہ سے کہ تشریف لائیں اور اپنے ملفوظات عالیہ سے ہمیں مستفیض فرمائیں.
بسم اللہ والصلاۃ والسلام علی رسول اللہ. My most respected scholar of Islam, His Eminence Mufti Azam of America, Hazrat Allama Maulana Qabul Hassan Sahab Qibla, distinguished guests My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a great privilege to be here in this great mosque of Al-Noor Society in Houston. I've been invited to talk about the genocide of Muslims in Europe, where Islamophobia can lead to. I'm grateful for this invitation. This is one of the important topics that we should be discussing, and this is something that people, not just in America, in North America, in the US, but across Europe, particularly Muslims, are seriously concerned about what is happening. Not just through social media, not just what they see on television, not just through the rhetorics of politicians, but also what they're experiencing through the abuse, through attacks, through the experiences in employment, through the harassment that they face. You know, there's a Chinese saying that goes something along these lines: may you live in interesting times. The Chinese used to say this when they wanted to curse someone. And wanted to curse someone, they will say that may you live in interesting times. It seems that we live in interesting time. We're living in interesting time, in cursed times. And the reason I say this is because if we look at our history, if you look at in terms of what has gone on, that the world had said never again after the Holocaust, that when the Holocaust happened, we thought that anti-Semitism was defeated. When the whole civil rights movement took place in the US and across the world, we thought that discrimination against black people had been discredited. We thought the whole discrimination against Irish people had been discredited. So when we analyze this, you'd expect, and you should expect, to see a powerful, generalized antipathy against any race or religion gather popular force without stirring up resistance or alarm. But that is what's happening on Islamophobia. That powerful resistance or that powerful alarm isn't there. There is no minority group in the US, in Europe, or in the UK, like Muslims, that you can make crass and bigoted generalization about them and still get away with it. The way Muslims are treated in the social media, on the streets, by politicians, no other minority group would be treated in that way and get away with it. But that is what's happening, and we see that, and we feel it. It's something which is deeply worrying because it really gets to you as to why is it that they hate us so much? Why is it that there is such a rise in Islamophobia? And they don't just say things, nasty things about just certain people or certain Muslims. They lump all Muslims into one group and term them as extremist or term them as terrorist. And if you look at the online posts, 90% of the hostile and hateful posts towards Muslims. In the US itself, according to the CARE organization, the 2023 report showed that there were around 8,000 complaints of anti-Muslim hatred, a 56% rise from the year before. And these weren't incidents where people were saying nasty things. These weren't incidents where people were simply abusing people. These were attacks, and those attacks included, and you'll know this, those attacks included the fatal action of stabbing of a 6-year-old boy, 6-year-old Palestinian American, and that action happened in Illinois. The shooting of the students, the 3 students of Palestinian descent. Now, reports by the University of California, Berkeley, as well as CARE, estimate that $206 million was funded to 33 groups in the United States whose prime purpose was to promote prejudice against Muslims, to promote hatred against Muslims and against Islam in the US between 2008 and 2013. In the UK, anti-Muslim hate has more than tripled. Between October and February 2024, 2,010 cases were reported. Now, the people who are promoting anti-Muslim hatred, promoting Islamophobia, they are promoting conspiracy theories, they are promoting lies, they are promoting information which is not true, and these are being published and these are being mainstreamed. And I want to say that we all lose when misinformation sells more than truth, when hatred is accepted more than tolerance, when exploitation sells more than decency, and when companies create their business model to profit from people's pain. And that's what we see, that the companies who are profiting from people's pain. There are people who are profiting from the hatred that's been promoted. There are countries that are benefiting from the Islamophobia, the dehumanization of Muslim that is being carried out. That there is a group of people in, not just in this country, in the US, but groups of people in other countries whose mission is to promote hatred against Muslims. And to term Muslims, all Muslims, as dangerous, the religion of Islam as something which is alien to their culture, Muslims' values as a threat against the society that they live in, that Muslims' identity is an alien identity. This is how it's been promoted. But the key thing here to note is that Muslims as a whole, whichever nationality you belong to, whether you're white Muslim or brown Muslim or black Muslim, whether you're Muslims from Pakistan or Muslim from America or whichever country or nationality or ethnic group you belong to, that all Muslims are looked from the security point of view, from a threat point of view, from a point of view that you don't belong here, from the point of view that your identity somehow is not compatible with the identity of the country you're living in. And this is what we're experiencing, this is what we see. That when something happens, we see that politicians are very quick to blame all the Muslims, whether that is happening in another part of the world, but quick to blame Muslims. The press and media are very quick to blame Muslims. But if you look at the history itself, we find that Christian Europe gave us the Crusades. Christian Europe gave us the Spanish Inquisition. Christian Europe gave us the anti-Jewish pogrom. European colonialism in Africa and Asia, the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda, not to mention countless arson and bomb attacks on abortion clinics in America. So we would like a bit of humility from people before lecturing and distorting other faiths on violence, terror, and seeing other people and other groups from the security lens. Now, I'm not going to play that game and say that all this has happened, the Spanish Inquisition, the anti-Jewish pogrom, the Holocaust was because of Christianity, because this is what is in their faith, and their faith is something which is really bad and teaches them to cause Holocaust, to destroy people. I'm not going to say that because I believe that Christianity, like Islam, is based on love, based on compassion and faith. So we don't go around saying that the World War I and World War II happened because of Christians. We don't go around, we say the Holocaust happened because of Christians. We don't go around and we say that the destruction that's been caused is because of Christians. We don't say that. Because the decent thing to do, the decent people would actually disassociate from all those things that are going on and say this is not because of religion. These are people. These are people who have interests. These are people who want to gain benefits, who are doing these things, but not because of faith, because Christianity, to me, is the religion of love and compassion, just like Islam is. But we don't see that being returned, that whenever something happens, it is Islam, Islam is evil, Muslims are evil. Everything is to be blamed on Muslims. And it's that kind of mentality that you see. And that is what is quite scary when we see that happening. And we see that not just in terms of America, in terms of UK or Europe, that minorities are facing. And I do believe that people are spineless when they blame minorities for everything, rather than actually look through the lenses of evidence, but when they are actually blaming everything, when they are promoting hatred, when they're causing division between communities and causing hatred between communities, rather than bringing communities together, rather than creating harmonious society, that there are politicians who want to benefit by causing division, by causing hatred. But we also see this in other countries. And we see this in terms of the atrocities that's been committed against the Uyghur Muslims, the Uyghur Muslims in China. We see this in the rise of the Hindutva ideology, the Hindutva movement, which is a fascist movement, which is a racist Nazi movement that's been promoted in India against Muslims. We see this in also the re-emergence of the Serb nationalism in the Western Balkans, where Muslim communities in these countries and across the globe are singled out as alien peoples to be monitored, to be ghettoized, to be persecuted and expelled from their respective ancestral homelands. Now, this is something which didn't start just now in the last few years. This is something in terms of the anti-Muslim hatred goes back to centuries. But the way this ideology is being promoted, the way, in the systematic way, Muslims are being singled out, we see this process of dehumanization taking place in society, so that those people who have certain interests they can fulfill their interest. In India, the Modi government's interest was to dehumanize Muslims, to not just achieve its aim of destroying the Babri Mosque and to rebuild, to build a temple there, but also to ensure that Muslims are so dehumanized that whatever action is taking in the occupied Kashmir, that the world doesn't bat an eyelid. That whatever action they want to take, that the world doesn't rise up, that the world doesn't criticize. So there is an interest by the Modi government, by the government which is actively supporting anti-Muslim hatred. There is an interest of that government to continue to promote, and it has given the support to the Hindutva ideology. It's given the support to some of the extremist organizations who are going around. And what we see in India happening right now is some of the worst form of Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hatred, where Hindu mobs are going around killing people, not just abusing, but killing people, killing Muslims, where people, the mobs are going around and forcing people to convert to Hinduism. Not just Muslim, by the way, but also Christians in India. We see also that when people are dehumanized, that is easy to then justify your actions. We see the dehumanization of Palestinian Muslims in Palestine, where we see the leaders of Netanyahu's cabinet, people like Ben-Gvir, who I call a fascist man, who's been, by the way, prosecuted for hatred in Israel. Ben-Gvir is someone who calls for the total destruction of the Palestinian people from the face of this earth. We see Netanyahu himself, when he was doing this speech, used the biblical term of Amalek. We see that people in Netanyahu's government saying that we are fighting animals. These are dehumanizing terms. There is no justification. There is absolutely no justification for the terms that's been used to justify the murders of nearly 40,000 people, majority of whom are children and women. But dehumanization works, because this is how you can justify to the world, so that the world doesn't rise up and cry over this or raise their voices. So dehumanization is a process of achieving your goals. And before you go to other countries where these things are taking place, I just want us to come back to Europe and look at the situation of dehumanization in Bosnia that led to genocide, where people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is a country that has been a peaceful country, where people have been living together for hundreds of years, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Catholic, or whether you're an Orthodox Christian, the people were living together for hundreds of years. People intermarried, people attended each other's weddings and funerals, people celebrated each other's celebrations and festivals together. This is a country where in Europe, which was termed as a country that has cohesion, where people respected each other's faith. Hundreds of years they've been living together, intermarried. And if you go to Bosnia, you'll see that you can't tell the difference between who is a Muslim, who is a Christian, Catholic, or Christian Orthodox Christian, because they look the same, they dress the same. Some have blue eyes, some are blonde, but all are white. You can't tell the difference at all. And yet genocide took place in that country. And it makes you question, that if genocide can take place in a country which is integrated, not just integrated but assimilated because they're of the same race, what could happen in other countries if Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hatred was continued to be promoted, that it leads to major violence like we saw in New Zealand, where innocent people were praying, were murdered by a terrorist, a radicalized terrorist, who went in there and shot innocent people. By the way, that terrorist was radicalized by the genocide that took place in Bosnia, because on his arm you saw that he was glorifying all those people who carried out the genocide against Muslims, Mladic and Karadzic and Milosevic. So you can see that it could lead to major violence. Now, I'm not saying that genocide will take place in the US or in the UK or Europe, but dehumanization, a process that leads to major violence, leads to something catastrophic, leads to something really horrific. And that's what happened in Bosnia, which is a country where people of the same race lived together, were assimilated, and yet still faced genocide. And I want to give you an example of some of the dehumanization, some of the ideology that was promoted. Biljana Plašić was the leader of Republika Srpska, which is the party that carried out the genocide in 1995. Biljana Plašić was not an ignorant person. She was a professor of biology, a highly educated person, highly celebrated person. When she became a leader of the Republika Srpska, of the party that carried out the genocide, she said, and I quote, that those people who accepted Islam, in other words, her people, those people who accepted Islam had deformed genes. And over the centuries, these genes degrades further. And that is why we can't negotiate with the Muslims or live with the Muslims. This is the ideology that was promoted in Bosnia. It's the same ideology that's been promoted by those followers of the Hindutva, the extremists, the fascists in India. That these people had deformed genes. And that is why they're not equal to us, we're superior. We want to create a separate entity, a separate place by exterminating these people, by murdering these people, so that superior people can live. 100,000 people were murdered in Bosnia-Herzegovina between 1992 and 1995. Nearly 2 million people, just under 2 million people, were displaced from their country. They moved to places like the US, UK, and parts of Europe. Around 600,000, 500 to 600 people live in the US, or more than that in the US, particularly in St. Louis. And 50,000 women were raped simply because of their Muslim identity. And when the Serbs were raping, were the Christian Orthodox, when they're raping, they were saying that we want to impregnate you with the superior race. This is their ideology, and this was their mentality. In the courts, when the international courts prosecuted some of those people, the evidence they gave, this is the people who were being prosecuted. One of them was Tolimo. When prosecuted, the evidence he gave was that he said that we were taught to hate Muslims. So they were radicalized. They were brainwashed to hate Muslims, so much so that they would kill, they would rape, and they would murder. And what was really shocked so many people is that you had a country where people looked the same, people intermarried, they had the same culture, the same language, the same food. They were friends, they were living there for hundreds of years, yet they were still murdered people because of their faith, because of their Muslim identity. I was giving a lecture, and I was asked a question that if people look the same, if you couldn't differentiate who was a Muslim and who was not a Muslim, then how did they know who to murder? And the answer to that is that the neighbors knew who the Muslims were. The neighbors who've been living together for hundreds of years, generations, knew who the Muslims were. The teachers knew who the Muslims were, who the Muslim students were. The friends knew who their Muslim friends were. The employers knew who the Muslim employees were. The mind boggles and thinks, how is it that neighbors could murder their neighbors? That the teachers who were supposed to impart knowledge and wisdom could become perpetrators, could become killers. That friends who is supposed to value and respect each other and have that deep connection of the heart and that friendship could murder their friends. How is that possible? And it happened through the process of dehumanization. That these people are not your friends. These people are not your neighbors. These are alien people. They have alien religion. It is not compatible with our society. We are superior people. They are inferior people. They are people, they are not fit to be living with us. This was the ideology that was promoted. And we see the same ideology being promoted in the US, in the UK, in Europe. Genocide is one of the worst crimes that can happen. And it happened in Europe after the Jews were murdered, where 6 million Jews were murdered in the Nazi Holocaust. Another group were murdered, and that's the Muslims in 1995, in our lifetime. And that's the shocking bit. And what's more shocking is that they knew they had committed this genocide because it was a strategy of Milosevic, of Mladic and Karadzic. These were the leaders. Because when they murdered people, they threw them in mass graves. So hundreds of people were thrown in mass graves. And when Madeleine Albright went public and said, "We know what you did," through satellite images, they got scared. They got worried that their crime would be caught. They'll be prosecuted for genocide. So this is many months later, they bought diggers, trucks, and they took them to those mass graves. And they dug those mass graves through using diggers. And they took some of those bodies, put on one truck, some of the other bodies on one truck, on another truck, etc. And they took them different parts of the country and to bury them into secondary graves. So from the primary mass grave, they took them to secondary graves, into smaller graves, and buried them there. Many months later, they realized that actually even the secondary graves are too big and they'll be caught out. Then they brought the trucks and diggers back again. And they dug those bodies and they took them and put them on the front line in smaller graves in the front line, which is called the tertiary graves, in a smaller, like one grave for one person in the front line, to show that these were all fighters. They weren't innocent people. They were all fighters in the front line where the fighting was taking place. This is the level of evilness that you saw in Bosnia. Your mind boggles that these people can do such thing. How evil they must have been. How evil ideology this is, the Serb nationalist ideology. The only reason they got caught out, by the way, is because they didn't realize that forensic science had developed by then. And forensic science was applied. The International Commission on Missing Person, ICMP, a really good friend of mine who's American, Catherine Bomberger, who's the Director General, worked hard to establish ICMP. A number of friends of mine in UK and other places who were forensic technicians, like Robert McNeil, they went there and they began the work of identifying whose loved one this is, whose husband this is, whose son this is. Because what they had done is they separated the male, the young boys, anyone who was male, they separated them and took them to murder. And they took the women to be raped. By 1993, the CIA had identified 33 rape camps. The hotels were used as rape camps because the genocide isn't just about killing people. It is about destroying the identity of a nation, of a community, destroying them. So you destroy the confidence of that community, destroy the women, impregnate them. You also cause genocide through cultural genocide, cultural destruction. So you destroy the mosque, you destroy the library. So there's no history. And that's the cultural genocide also took place. But the forensic science, they began to identify whose loved one this is. They found the arm of the person in the front line, and they found the leg of that same person 60 miles away in a village through forensic science. So that person had been intentionally removed because the leg is found 60 miles away in a village and the hand is found in the front line. And another leg is found somewhere else. So that's how their crimes were caught, and it was presented at the International Tribunal for prosecution. And what the forensic scientists have done, and I'm conscious that it'll be time for Isha, so I will wrap up. What the forensic scientists did was to piece together, it was a human jigsaw. They pieced together the arm, the leg, the head of the person, of the same person, using forensic science. And once they've got the majority of the bones of a body ready, then they will tell whose loved one it is, and those loved ones will find their loved one. The mother will find the child, the mother will or she'll find her husband, the woman found the husband. And there's a burial that takes place each year in Srebrenica on 11th of July. The janaza that takes place each year. To this day, 30 years on, the work is still carrying on. Every year they find that. This was the worst crime. But this was also the worst form of Islamophobia because it happened because of Islamophobia, because of anti-Muslim hatred, the hatred that existed. And that same ideology is empowering the far right and the extremists in the US, in America, in Europe and the UK. The riots you may have heard of that took place in UK recently, the comments on the social media where far right people were saying that we want to have a Srebrenica 2 against Muslims. In other words, we want to cause another genocide. Then we want to murder Muslims. They want to blow up the mosques. This is the mentality. These are the most radicalized people. These are the most extremist people. And these are the people that are causing not just the violence, but promoting the ideology which is extremely dangerous. And this is the ideology that we need to tackle, that we need to ensure that we raise our voices with our governments, with our MPs, to ensure that this is stamped out. That's number one. The second thing is that we need to understand that there's state-driven sectarianism, there's state-driven Islamophobia in countries like China, in countries like India, that we need to also ensure that we raise our voices. We can't simply leave this issue and think that it will go away. It will not go away. We can't turn a blind eye. We must ensure that we, as communities, that we raise voices. And I say that we need to talk to people. That people say that we need to speak truth to power, and this is where I want to leave you. That speak truth to power. Of course, we need to speak truth to power and tell them what is happening. But we also need to speak, because power knows what is happening, by the way, in India, in China, how the dehumanization is taking place. The power knows, and the power is quiet. So we need to speak truth to people. We need to tell them what's going on so they can come out and rise up against this issue and pressurize the government. This is a responsibility for all of us, and I hope that, inshallah, in this masjid and through the work that you do, that will continue to create a better society for everyone. The work of Al-Noor is commendable, because Al-Noor is a mosque that is promoting community cohesion. Al-Noor is a mosque that's promoting better relations with all community. It is a mosque that has been doing tremendous amount of work to ensure that we create a better society for everyone. And I know that through Al-Noor, through this masjid, through your support, this work can carry on so that we can all live a life where everyone is respected, irrespective of their religion or their faith. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ya Nabi salam alayka, Ya Rasul salam alayka, Ya Habib salam alayka, salawatullah alayka, tala' al-badru alayna min ثنيات الوداع وجب شكر علينا مدى لله داعي يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا